It is a very exciting day here at Lowne Aerospace because, over the past few weeks / months, I've been gradually building out all of our space infrastructure, so building space stations, mining facilities, deep space communications arrays, etc, etc. But one thing I've neglected is ensuring the safety of our home world, our home planet. It's all well and good we have Mun bases, Lathe bases, I think, on this save file. I've completely lost track of where I am, to be honest. We have a Juno base, I know that. These are all well and good, but it's not exactly a replacement for home, is it? So I thought it might be sensible to do what you're seeing me do on screen, and that is build an SSTO. I've not done one of those in quite a while, but this SSTO, crucially, is going to carry some important payload to interplanetary space. Namely, it's going to take the SENTINEL space telescope piece, which is like I've built a satellite around it. That's the SENTINEL telescope piece there. A lot of people don't use this piece for what its intended purposes, myself included. And I realized I should probably use this part because I've never actually used it for what it's meant to be used for before. I normally use it for greebling and detailing on space stations and surface bases. But that telescope is actually designed for detecting asteroids. And, I thought it'd be sensible to put it in space, so we have it there so that we could detect any asteroids that might be on a potential collision course with Kerbin, so that we could anticipate them, intercept them early, send up an asteroid redirect mission, and ensure that Kerbin remains a safe place. Now, of course, all of this is actually completely unnecessary if you're playing Kerbal Space Program because, yes, you occasionally do get asteroids that enter Kerbin's sphere of influence and even ones that actually impact Kerbin. But there's never any, apocalyptic scenario. They will just, I guess, enter Kerbin's atmosphere, hit the ground and despawn and nothing happens. But, hypothetically, what if that wasn't the case? Then, we're in good stead here. So there's kind of two missions in this video. The first is, well, I've kind of already described it, haven't I? This SSTO that's going to carry the satellites to interplanetary space and then get back to the Kerbal Space Center. And then we're going to do another mission in which we detect an asteroid on a collision course with Kerbin. And we're going to go ahead and try and intercept it and redirect it the hard way. Oh, what's the hard way? Well, I guess you just have to wait and see. Wow, the waterfall engine effects of the rapiers firing up never really gets old for me. So yes, we have this kind of unusual, asymmetrical, I guess, setup because we have that big central rapier that's above the nuclear engine. I did originally design this SSTO to only have the kind of nuclear engine in the center and then just the two rapier engines either side on the wings, but it just didn't provide enough thrust to... Well, actually, that's it. It didn't have enough thrust to break the sound barrier and ultimately get to space. So I had to add that supplementary central rapier engine. Maybe I could have experimented with having a Whiplash or a Panther instead of another rapier, but I don't know, simplicity's sake, let's just use a rapier engine there. And as we break through the sound barrier there, courtesy of the VaporCones mod. As always, guys, I always get comments asking what mods are installed. There's always a list of mods in the video description. Yeah, I mean, if I were to just list it every single time I do a video, it would take a pretty sizable chunk of the runtime because I do have quite a lot of visual mods installed. As you can see, the game looks absolutely beautiful compared to a baseline install. Yeah, it's weird when I sometimes see unmodded versions of Kerbal Space Program or the PlayStation or Xbox versions where it's wow, the game really has come a long way in the past 10, 12 years purely because of the skill and dedication of the modding community. So yeah, so as you can see, we're kind of trying to fly as flat as possible, trying to get as much speed out of the rapier engines whilst they're in their hyper efficient, well, I guess more efficient air breathing mode where we're burning liquid fuel, but our oxidizer is coming from the oxygen in the atmosphere. But as you can see, we've just passed the 20-kilometer mark. The amount of oxygen in the air is rapidly depleting. So in just a second, the rapier engines are going to automatically switch to closed cycle mode. You can kind of tell when this happens. There'll be a subtle audio cue. You can see our resource in the top right hand corner. You'll see our oxidizer levels start depleting as we engage, as we start consuming the oxidizer. And there we are. So yes, I guess it wasn't that subtle, was it? The rapier engines now look a lot different and our oxidizer is rapidly running out because yes, the chemical closed cycle, that's the word, the closed cycle burning mode of the rapier engines is far less efficient than the air breathing mode. But it's fine. We're now going almost orbital velocity, about 300 meters per second shy of it, so we should have more than enough power using that single nuclear engine now to get the rest of the way to space. I guess it probably wasn't the best idea of mine to use that little, I don't know what it's called, the private jet style cockpit at the front of this SSTO, just because it's very, very sensitive to heating, which as you can see, the whole ship's covered in flames, right? So it's usually not the best choice for an SSTO cockpit. The better option is the fighter jet style inline Mark 1 cockpit, but I don't know, I really like the way the kind of private jet style one looks, so I always try and use it, even if it's kind of to the detriment of the safety of the aircraft. But Jebediah Kerbin in the pilot seat there, Jebediah is made of different stuff from you and I, so he's pretty happy to put his life on the line, which is yeah, I'm not really sure what I was going for there. But anyway, our apoapsis is comfortably above the border of the atmosphere, about just shy of 100 kilometers. Obviously, the atmosphere ends at 70 kilometers. So now we're just pointing prograde and coasting our way to space. We are now obviously in space. So yeah, I just raised our apoapsis to exactly, well, roughly exactly. Does that make sense? Roughly exactly. That's kind of a... Anyway, yeah, roughly exactly 100 kilometers, just because it seemed like a nice round number, I suppose. And then we can plot a little maneuver node so that we can circularize, and then we can perform another burn. So basically, the telescope payload does not have sufficient delta V to perform an escape burn from Kerbin's sphere of influence. So the telescope needs to be in interplanetary space. Now, what's interesting, or I guess maybe not interesting, well, I tell you what's interesting is how little due diligence I do when it comes to researching and designing craft. Because I was like, I don't really know how the telescope works. I'm just going to launch it and I'll figure it out, and then I'll just pretend that I knew all along. So actually, my initial plan was to just put it in low Kerbin orbit. I'm like, it's in Kerbin orbit, right? It will just detect asteroids in Kerbin orbit. And I deployed it. I edited this out, so you won't see me doing this, but I deployed the satellite, and it said, error needs to be in solar orbit. So then I had to load a quick save and redo things so that I could, in fact, deploy the satellite into solar orbit. I guess I just didn't put enough care and attention into this video. I mean, I certainly didn't put as much care into this video as what went into the design of these hover pens from Novium, who have sponsored today's video, and it's Black Friday, which means you can get 20% off all hover pens with my code MattLowne in their biggest sale of the year. These pens literally float. I'm a total sucker for things like this, and I'm absolutely obsessed with mine. The hover pen by Novium isn't just another writing tool. It was named one of Time's best inventions of 2022, and for good reason. Balanced at a precise 23.5 degree tilt in homage to Earth's axial tilt, and it instantly grabs attention. But it's not all for show. The hover pen delivers a smooth, satisfying writing experience and comes in gorgeous finishes like Mars Magma and Starlight Silver. It's refillable too, so you can keep using it indefinitely. And if you want something truly cosmic, then there's a premium meteorite edition that includes a genuine fragment of a meteorite older than the Earth itself. The Hoverpen Future Edition also features an interchangeable tip, letting you switch between a rollerball and, my preference, a fountain pen nib. Whether you're treating yourself or looking for a memorable gift, the Hoverpen fuses art, space, and practicality into one amazing package. And for Black Friday, for the next 48 hours, you can get 20% off all Hoverpens with my code MattLowne, and 10% off after that. It's the biggest sale of the year, plus free international shipping to most countries. Hit the link in the description or simply scan that QR code to grab yours now. So back to the mission at hand. We're going to deploy our solar panels that our spacecraft can indeed remain powered for the duration of its space mission, and then we're going to go ahead and plot a maneuver node. So we haven't got that much delta V in the SSTO remaining itself, so we're not actually going to put the SSTO on an escape trajectory from Kerbin. We're just going to raise our apoapsis to be slightly above the MUN's orbital height, and then we can deploy the telescope, and then that will have sufficient delta V to perform the rest of the Kerbin escape burns. Here we are about to, initiating the first big burn from the space plane. So yes, kind of a slow one because of course we're using the nuclear engine, and we've only got one of them, and the nuclear engine doesn't have particularly great thrust to weight ratio. I also noticed that I'd forgotten to disable one of my control surfaces just there, so I quickly edited some action groups so that we could disable them. Looks like I didn't do that correctly because they are still flapping there. Sorry if that bothers you, but I will correct that in due course. Here we are, there we are, disabling pitch, yaw, and roll controllers there. So the spacecraft remains serenely, I don't know, it just looks a bit dumb, doesn't it, have the aerodynamic control surfaces moving around in the vacuum of space. So yes, we can all rest easy. Everything is now absolutely fine. And the burn is almost done. As you can see, we've only got less than 300 meters per second remaining. And then it's going to be a case of deploying that satellite. I mean, I guess it kind of does look a bit dumb having it sat on top of the SSTO like this. I don't know why. I just really wanted to make a Mark 1 size SSTO. I don't really know why. I feel like most SSTOs I make, and I think what most people make, are either the Mark II spaceplane style, the one that looks a bit like a SR-71 Blackbird fuselage shape, that size SSTO, or you're using the Mark III size SSTO parts. And I feel like the Mark I gets a little bit neglected. I feel partly because there's no good service bay parts. Like, there are the service bays, but they're really, really small and narrow, and they have that dumb little connector piece. Like, all the way back in, like, 2015, I posted, like, a GIF that I don't have anymore, unfortunately. But it was my idea where every time you'd attach a service bay to another service bay, it would become one service bay, but just a bit bigger. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Or just not having the big dividing piece, like the service bays we had in KSP2, for example. They were great. Unfortunately, the rest of the game was not, but that aside, I think that's why a lot of people don't make a lot of Mark I size SSTOs, because it's really hard to make them functional. But I did like my solution here, where I used the Mark I inline docking port to kind of have the payload docked to it, and it just rides along on top of it. I've done a couple of like SSTO launches like this before, or not even SSTOs, just like jet plane launches, like air launched stuff from the back of a space plane. But yeah, I kind of liked my solution that I came up with here. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Any way that you would improve this design. If you want to get your grubby little hands on this SSTO, then you can in fact download the craft file from the description. If you're a Patreon or YouTube channel member, you'll get your very own version of this video with no ads or anything, and it will have the download link. And if you're watching the public release, in the description there'll be a link to the Patreon and the YouTube member versions of this video if you're signed up to either of those and you haven't seen your exclusive post. So there we go. So yeah, I said earlier I was going to do a burn with the SSTO that's going to take our orbit just beyond the Mund's altitude. I guess I decided not to do that in the end. I obviously misremembered, but we still had enough fuel to then perform our escape burn. Now here is another instance where I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was just making things up as I went along and didn't really understand how the telescope piece works here, because you're going to see me right click it and press start object tracking, and as you can see, it is now mapping asteroids and comets passing near Duna orbit. And I was like, wait, what? No, I want it tracking things near Kerbin orbit, right? So I tried stopping orbit tracking, I tried a few different things, and I wasn't really quite sure what was happening. So I ended up checking the KSP wiki, and I will just now read to you so I don't get it wrong. Basically, the wiki starts actually with the part description, which I thought was quite cute. The SENTINEL space telescope uses infrared light to detect celestial bodies such as asteroids that may pose a risk to Kerbin. Anyway, it's able to locate asteroids near a planet's orbit. In order to do so, it must be in a solar orbit, i.e. around the sun, outside of the sphere of influence of any other body. When activated, it will begin to scan for and display asteroids that are in the next widest planetary orbit. The telescope will continue to run in the background and will find asteroids over time. Once asteroids are found, they can be selected in the tracking station to be tracked. So basically the key part there in that little paragraph that I just read to you is that it will scan and display asteroids that are in the next widest planetary orbit, i.e. You have to be kind of within, like, inside the orbit of the planet you want to be scanning for, basically. So I went on a Kerbin escape trajectory that actually raised our orbit around the sun, like our apoapsis, is slightly higher than Kerbin's orbit, which means our next widest celestial body is actually Duna. So that's why it was scanning for Duna. So once I've finished doing this part of the video where I'm getting the SSTO back to the Kerbal Space Center, we'll go back to the telescope and I will lower our apoapsis around the sun so that our entire orbit is within Kerbin's orbit, but obviously above Eve's orbit. And then we will be able to track asteroids passing near Kerbin. And I guess comets near Kerbin as well. I feel comets are another kind of, I don't know, like an untapped place of where content could be created. What I'm trying to say here is I've not really done any comet videos, I don't think, in Kerbal Space Program. I think I made like a video about them when they were first added to the game. I don't think I've ever done like a dedicated mission about comets or things like that, or maybe like building a space station around a comet. So if you want to see some like comet content down below, then comment about comet content down below. That was a fun little tongue twister. The main difference, in case people don't know, I'm not saying about the difference between comets and asteroids in real life. In Kerbal Space Program, the comets are massive. They're much, much bigger than asteroids. And I think you can redirect them, but it takes an order of magnitude more difficulty to do so. But yeah, that's a potential idea for a future video. Certainly not next week. Next week's I've already got planned out. It's going to be a Blunderbirds video. It's going to be great, so make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already. If you want to see that, it's going to be a fun old rescue mission. Basically, someone obviously stranded some Kerbals somewhere. Then they sent a rescue mission, and the rescue mission crashed. So they sent another rescue mission, and that rescue mission crashed. So now there's 3 groups of Kerbals that all need to be rescued. So I think it's going to be a really funny, fun mission to do, basically. And I've come up with a little way I can twist the whole Blunderbirds concept. Like I've got a fun little idea that I've not done in a long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Like I've not made the video yet, so I don't know if any of it will work out. But I'm excited to give it a go. As you can see, we've got the mountain ranges that are just to the east of... No, wait, hang on. No, just to the west, sorry, of the Kerbal Space Center, which means we are rapidly approaching the runway. Whenever I do kind of space shuttle or SSTO or any kind of space plane, really, re-entries, to get back to the Kerbal Space Center, I always try and see if I can just glide back without the need for any kind of engine burning, just because it feels a lot more satisfying and I guess more realistic, right? The space shuttle didn't use jet engines, obviously, to get back to the Kerbal Space Center, you know. The Buran is a potentially different story. I'm talking specifically about the NASA space shuttle. And you know what? I filmed this mission yesterday. I'm now recording the video today. So I can't remember if I actually managed it. But I think, looking at it, we are getting optimistically close to the runway. And I don't think I've had to activate those, reactivate, I should say, the Rapier engine. So I think we are in the clear. Yes, we're coming in nice and fast. We're going to easily not undershoot the runway. So yeah, managed to do a little gliding. Unless I used the engines earlier in the video and I was just staring off into space whilst talking about whatever it was I was waffling on about. So yeah, but let's just pretend I didn't use them just in case I did, but I don't think I did. And look at those beautiful reflections on the surface. It's clearly recently rained, and we have some lovely reflections. These are from the latest release of BlackRock's Volumetric Clouds mod. And there we are, and that's why I'm skidding a little bit here. I'm blaming the rainfall, and it's definitely not a skill issue. I'm blaming the rainfall here. But yes, now that we have touched down, phase 1 of our big plan at keeping Kerbin safe from any asteroids is now complete. We now have an interplanetary defense satellite in deep space. Well, I guess it's not a defense satellite, it's just a detection early warning system satellite. But we have the means now of detecting potential collision course asteroids. So we're going to go and find it. As you can see, I have not yet corrected its orbit around the sun. So let's go ahead and do that. So yes, just to recap, we need to have its orbit be completely within Kerbin's orbit. It is partially within Kerbin's orbit. So I did see like, oh, maybe when we dip below Kerbin's orbit, will it then start tracking objects near Kerbin rather than Juno? But no, it didn't work. So I'm taking from that we have to be entirely within Kerbin's orbit, if that makes sense. So here we are, time warping down. It's a fairly expensive burn, but I did load this thing with loads of, you can see just there I clicked on the telescope to see if object tracker would now be around Kerbin, but it wasn't. So essentially, yes, your entire orbit needs to be within the planet you want to track objects there. Even if it's only a tiny amount of your orbit, you're closer, well, you're kind of above Kerbin, it will still track Juno, if that makes sense. So yes, now we are within Kerbin, and aha! It is now mapping asteroids and comets passing near Kerbin orbit. So now it's a case of waiting. And to be honest, guys, I sat in the tracking station for a while, and whilst I did have lots of asteroids passing within Kerbin's sphere of influence, none of them were on a collision course, and I was kind of getting bored. So I went to my Discord server, which you can join in the description below, and I was like, can anyone find an asteroid for me to redirect that's on a collision course with Kerbin? So Luna here, very kindly, she sent me a save file where she found a asteroid that was on a collision course with Kerbin. So I'm like, thank you, I will now redirect it. So I guess we haven't actually used the satellite we just placed into orbit, right? But, you know, this is a video, it's just, take it, it's like, it's a piece of art, okay? Don't worry if the narrative doesn't make complete sense. Now, it's time to build the asteroid redirect vehicle. And I said earlier that I'm going to do this on hard mode. And the reason why I'm doing this on hard mode is because in almost all cases, and this is good practice, by the way, this is what you should do, is what people do is they add drills to the front of their redirect vehicle and add an ISRU unit and ore tanks that basically they can fire their engines and keep the craft continually supplied with fuel by mining the asteroid for resources. Because asteroids, they're very big, they're very heavy. So if you're not going to be doing mining, you will need a lot of Delta V, a huge amount of power to redirect the asteroid any meaningful amount. But I decided, you know, I'm a masochist. I'm going to try and redirect this asteroid without being able to mine from it. It's going to be the hard way. And I think the more realistic way, right? If we were going to do this in real life, we wouldn't really want to be depending on an ISRU unit not failing during the redirect process. So here we are on the launch pad. Here we are on the map screen. Where's the asteroid? There it is. So as you can see, first of all, it's orbiting. I'm doing the air quotes thing because obviously it's going to collide, but it's orbiting in the opposite direction to Kerbin's rotation. So we're going to need to launch west rather than the normal east, and we're going to want to launch kind of north as well. So kind of northwest is the way I'm going to be launching, because we kind of want our orbit to be matching the path of the asteroid so that any kind of corrective maneuvers are going to be as cheap as possible. And we are off. Jebediah Kerman, Bill Kerman, Bob Kerman on perhaps their most important mission ever, because the fate of Kerbin lies in their hands as they fly their rocket through this thunderstorm. We wouldn't normally launch in such adverse weather, but these be adverse times. We don't have a choice. We need to launch as soon as possible to give us as much time as possible to save Kerbin. And you might have noticed from the map screen, actually, the collision point of the asteroid, there is potential that it could directly impact the Kerbal Space Center. You know, it was pretty much, it's going to impact the equator, which is where the Kerbal Space Center is. So yeah, doubly important, because the Kerbal Space Center seems to be the only continuously populated building on Kerbin. So maybe its entire population lives there. Who knows? Let's not take the risk regardless. So yes, we have ditched our little SRBs. Now just continuing on. So yes, very, very overpowered craft for what is essentially just something that goes to low Kerbin orbit because of the aforementioned challenge of needing to move a really heavy asteroid using just what we have with us. We can't mine fuel and synthesize extra delta V, extra fuel that's going to get us the extra delta V. We just have to use what we've got. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, this was just this was all thoughts and prayers on my end as well. I just built this craft. I was like, well, it's got about 5,000 meters per second of delta V. It's got a fairly powerful, vacuum engine, the Wolfhound. I reckon this will be enough to move the asteroid. I actually had no idea though if it would be enough. So really, this was genuinely a very nail-biting experience for the Kerbals. I mean, for me, I didn't care. I knew I could just revert to launch site and then build a craft with drills on it instead. But I have done an asteroid redirect mission before in the past, like 9 years ago, where I did use like drills to mine more fuel and stuff. So I thought this time it'd be nice to try and do things the more difficult way. And so kind of the primary objective here is to first of all redirect the asteroid so that it does not impact Kerbin. Secondary objective, which I wasn't planning on achieving, but in the back of my mind I was like, it would be nice if we could do this. A secondary objective would be to not only redirect the asteroid, but to capture it into a stable Kerbin orbit so that further expeditions can be made to the asteroid to like research it, mine it. You know, there are some asteroids out there in real life with lots of exotic and very rare minerals like platinum and stuff like that. It'd be great if we could send ships to go and excavate, mine them, things like that. Maybe even find some signs of aliens somehow on the asteroid. I mean, in Kerbal Space Program, some of the asteroids are air quotes magic asteroids where they have like glowing veins inside them. I don't think this one did, but hey, it might have done. Maybe it does on the inside. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here, but here we are circularizing. As you can see, I got pretty much nailed this, didn't I? Our orbital inclination is almost exactly the same as the asteroids. It's not quite, but I wasn't really trying to aim for it. I basically just aimed exactly northwest on the nav ball, and I figured we'll just do the rest of the corrections once we're in space. So we're not quite the same, but I'd say we're close enough that shouldn't cost us too much delta V to get ourselves on a rendezvous course. So here we are, just plotting a couple of maneuver nodes here. One of them to raise our apoapsis, and then one to fix our inclination to get as close as possible. I'd say we're getting fairly close encounter just there. So now it's time to, time warp and initiate burn 1 of 2. Well, I got 1 of 2 to get us in roughly the right vicinity, and then we'll need to do a few more burns to get us right on the way towards the asteroid. There's another little tip I want to share with you once we are at the asteroid, and that is a lot of people have difficulties redirecting asteroids in Kerbal Space Program because obviously you can dock to it, but then when you fire your engine, you're not aligned with the center of mass of the asteroid at all, and then it's really hard to steer it. And there is a really easy way of having this not happen. So I will show you when we get to the asteroid, if I remember to mention it. Obviously, there's every chance that I could just be talking about complete nonsense, and then you guys will be watching thinking, when's he going to tell us about how to do this thing? I mean, it is pretty obvious, to be fair, but I have seen posts on the subreddit before with people getting confused or like having trouble, so I'm like, oh, it might be worth sharing this wisdom with the viewers. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just plotting the second burn here. We've got a 2.5 kilometer separation with the target asteroid, so pretty close. So yeah, there's not really much more to say other than just executing the burn. Here we go. I think it's funny. I always speed the footage up when I speed the footage up so that the video is a bit more watchable for you guys. It's funny to watch the little Kerbal portrait start wobbling around crazily. As you can see, I'm just refining our encounter just here using RCS, and we've got that down to 1.3 kilometers of separation, which I think is pretty good considering how far away the object is and how small it is. So yeah, we're just going to time warp to that close encounter, and then we're just going to start getting closer to it the lazy way. So pointing retrograde relative to the target, killing off all of our velocity relative to the target, and then burning towards it, rinse and repeat until we are there. Oh, we have a visual. Well, it's gone now. When am I going to cut away from the map screen? There it is. I guess we got the crosshair. We can't quite see the object. Oh, there it is. It popped into view. So yeah, kind of, maybe I overshot this burn a little bit, but I knew I was going to have to do another burn to get a little bit closer regardless. I wasn't too fussed. Now we're going to point towards the target and do what I just said. So kind of keep on pointing towards the target, then we'll point retrograde again. Once we're as close as possible, we'll kill off all of our speed and do the same again. And now you guys, you're prepared to get knowledged, all right? So to redirect it, right-click the asteroid and click Target Center of Mass, and that's the trick. So now when we dock to it, we should be firing along its center of mass, and the engine should work no problems. Lovely jubbly. So I probably should have mentioned the key to all of this, and that is the claw that we have at the front of this vehicle. The claw is what will allow us to dock to the asteroid. So obviously, it's not actually docking, right? We're grabbing onto it. And yeah, we're using the claw. And that is a stock piece. This is a 100% stock vehicle. So if you wanted to recreate this, you only need, you need to have Kerbal Space Program, obviously, but nothing else. As you can see, docking to this asteroid has we've had a bit of a hit to our delta V. We've gone from over 3,000 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. That's going to be about the challenge involved. But let's see. If we burn radial out, we can fully redirect the asteroid with just 46 meters per second. It will pass above the atmosphere and everything will be safe. And then we have 34 meters per second remaining, which, while obviously not very much, might be all we need to capture this asteroid into, I was about to say low Kerbin orbit. It won't be to low Kerbin orbit, but it will be enough to get it into a Kerbin orbit, potentially. I guess we'll just have to see. So, although I did a maneuver node, I'm just going to point radial out because that's all the maneuver node was, just a boring radial out burn. So now I'm just watching our little periapsis height, top left of the screen on those Kerbal Engineer readouts. Wait for it. We're now no longer impacting the surface. And wait for it. 60 kilometers, 65, 70. We are now clear of the atmosphere with an 80 kilometer periapsis around Kerbin, 33 meters per second of delta V remaining in our craft. So not only is Kerbin safe, but as you can see, it's only going to take about 13 meters per second to actually capture this and give Kerbin a third moon where scientific expeditions can, I guess, go out and perform some research. So yeah, and also do some mining, get some precious metals or whatever else happens to be on board this, happens to be what makes up the contents of this asteroid. And ready for it? We have now captured into a stable Kerbin orbit. So yes, we've achieved both objectives with 21 meters per second of delta V remaining, which will of course be enough for our spacecraft to detach and then re-enter Kerbin's atmosphere, because of course we will be undocking from the asteroid again, and then we'll obviously have loads of delta V left in the spacecraft because it's no longer having to lug around this giant rock. Our scientist Bob Kerbin is going out for a quick inspection, which involved him slamming into the side of the asteroid and then floating away smiling. And that's his scientific analysis. Now, you might have noticed our claw unit is actually attached to a probe core with some solar panels on board and a little communications dish and a docking port on the other side. So future expeditions to this asteroid won't need to use a claw. They can simply dock with that little docking port that we have now installed on the side of the asteroid. There we are. And we have a little communications dish as well. I guess we didn't need it, but I don't know, just looks nice to have, doesn't it? I guess it might have been sensible to have kind of extendable solar panels, because as you can see, most of those solar panels are completely occluded from the sun by the asteroid, but you know, it's a fairly low power operation. It only needs intermittent exposure to the sun to remain powered up. In my mind, at least, I feel like that would be reasonable. So yeah, as you can see, now that we've undocked, we now have over 1,000 meters per second of delta V remaining in this ship, and I massively overcooked our Kerbin re-entry burn. So yeah, just fine-tuning things now. I went for a periapsis of 35 kilometers, which I felt was, you know, low enough that we would capture, but not too low that we would end up overheating and exploding. So yeah, but what I did want to do is I wanted to detach things at last minute so that we could watch the lower stage overheat and explode. Because, you know, I like ending missions with some fireworks, right? But unfortunately, disappointingly, it didn't explode. And I don't really know why. In a second, you'll see me opening the cheat menu to see if I'd accidentally, like, turned off re-entry heating somehow. But, yeah, we got a temperature gauge showing up on the spacecraft. But nary an explosion to be seen, or even a solar panel being destroyed on the lower stage. Yeah, here's me checking the cheat menu. This is Luna's safe art, to be fair, so maybe Luna plays with altered re-entry heating, but I don't know. We had a temperature gauge show up, so I guess not. So not really quite sure what happened there. But regardless, everything is fine. Kerbals are safe. Kerbin is safe because the asteroid is no longer going to be hitting it, right? And then we can just pass through these clouds. And, I did get a bit worried that the parachutes didn't deploy until very late on as we approached the surface. But yeah, we're approaching the surface. Look at that. It's teeming with life. The trees are blooming. The grass is green. The grass is going to be scorched a little bit in a second when that heat shield crashes into it. Yeah, that was an explosion just then. The only explosion happens to be a ablative heat shield slamming into some dirt. Not quite sure what combusted there. But yes, the grass is green, the flowers are blooming, all because the asteroid did not impact the surface. So yes, thank you to the Kerbals for saving Kerbin. Thank you to the names on the right hand side of the screen for supporting my channel, and thank you of course to Novium once again for sponsoring this video. I really love my holo pens, and it's their Black Friday sale, biggest sale of the year, so definitely click that link in the description or in the pinned comment to get yours today. Great Christmas present, what can I say? Yeah, but that was the end. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.